Hi, everybody. We are here live with K-Bhava, Kristi Corlett, who is the instructor in our advanced certification program, Whispered Wisdom, Walking Between the Worlds of Yoga and Shamanism. And she's joining us today. We're on our 40-day Japa Mala challenge, and today is day 22. So we thought we'd have K-Bhava, our favorite storyteller, come along here to connect. We had some failed attempts on our Facebook Live, so we decided to record this meeting and then upload it so you all could join us. So super excited to have you here, K-Bhava. And on this 40-day Japa Mala that we've all been practicing, a lot of our students have been using the Japa Mala to chant to a Sanskrit god or goddess. And I think it's really helpful for people to understand a little bit about what are these, avatars or the mythology behind some of the Sanskrit avatars that we use, and why do we use them. So perhaps you could share a little bit of your knowledge with us here today.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's so much knowledge, not that I have it all, but there's great knowledge to share on this. I mean, as we know, Hindu mythology is a living mythology, which makes it rare in this world because it's something that's practiced by millions of people every day as an active spiritual practice.
Wow.
So when we're in it's a live. I love that idea of living mythology, and so it's constantly developing and growing and just existing. And so these gods and goddesses, one might understand them as facets of a single divine of source, and despite the fact that there are 330 million of them, there's really one that is sort of nameless, and they call it Brahman. But these gods and goddesses, Parvati, Saraswati, Shiva, Ganesh, they're aspects of that divine one that's present in each one of us. And that's how Hindu mythology and philosophy is taught, is that when we address one of these deities, we're addressing that quality also within ourselves, because we are all a spark of the divine.
It's so helpful because sometimes it feels really out there, right? So how do we ground this so that for those people that are really new to this, they're like, what? Why? I just go to yoga to move my body and to exercise. And so what is all this other stuff, and how does it relate to my life?
Exactly. And we look at that practicality very much in Western culture, and it's a good thing because it does help us stay grounded. And it's not all that hard to understand. If you think I'm chanting Om Namah Shivaya, why am I chanting that? And what does that mean? You could think, well, literally, Om is the sacred vibration. Shivaya is the name of Shiva. Nama is like saying, hey, it's salutation. It's an address to Shiva. And you're saying, what does then Shiva represent to me?
Yes.
Like, what does that,
yes.
Who is that guy?
Yes.
And, when you're looking at what meaning or intention goes into your practice of chanting to Shiva, well, if you think Shiva represents consciousness itself, he is the guy who is the deepest wisdom within ourselves. And so if you're chanting to that, you're invoking the power or the energy of consciousness and self-awareness. By chanting to Shiva, you're asking to become more aware of self. You're asking to become more conscious. You may be asking, it depends, right? Your intention will be set by you, but Shiva essentially represents that divine consciousness within. So if we're problem solving, or if we are confused, or if we just feel we need a guide, we can then invoke that within ourselves as we chant the words, or the syllables, I should say, Om Namah Shivaya. I'm chanting, I'm invoking the deep consciousness within myself to whatever, help me work on this issue. Maybe it makes me a better yogi because he's also the god of yoga, right? So he's Nataraja, he's the great yogi, the great dancer. And so maybe we're looking for qualities of grace within ourselves, or maybe we just can't get into full forward bend and we really are, that's our goal. Or perhaps there's something we don't understand in our lives. And by applying consciousness to that, we get a broader understanding. So maybe he helps us in that way.
With
He also helps us
self-awareness, you're saying, with really a
exactly.
more awareness of ourselves. And then what would you say is a story that would invite us to recognize that? Like the story that goes, there's so many that you have.
There's so many stories about Shiva. So to know about Shiva, Shiva is sort of a wild man in the Hindu pantheon of gods and goddesses. He's untamable, and yet he's also he's deep wisdom, and so he often comes up with solutions to problems that are completely outside the box. He may do things that are counterculture-ish and that surprise us. And so I think of the story. There was once a time where the gods and the Asuras, their arch rivals, were very sad, and they weren't feeling well because the nectar of immortality, the essence of immortality, had been lost in this deep ocean. They called it the Milky Ocean. And in order to get their vitality back, they had to cooperate. So you think of light and shadow and how they combine into a single, this is life. Life has light and shadow, and those are the gods and the Asuras in this tradition. And so what they had to do to get the nectar of immortality back was churn this Milky Ocean. And they of course, it was epic because it's mythology and it's amazing. So what they did was, they're all big and strong and powerful, and they used a mountain, Mount Mandara, to act as the churn. And in order to make the mountain turn, they wrapped a great snake. He was a Naga person. His name was Vasuki, and he's the guy you see hanging around Shiva's neck. They tied him around the mountain, or wrapped him around the mountain, and they started pulling on his head and his tail to churn this ocean, because they knew the nectar of immortality that they needed was down there. And so I know, it's like epic. And so they're churning and they're pulling on Vasuki, and poor Vasuki, because the powers exerted were so great that he became sick to his stomach. He couldn't handle the centrifugal force was huge, and so he actually vomited poison.
Wow.
And this poison was so powerful that it threatened to destroy all things. As they say, it threatened the three worlds. And so what Shiva decided to do in a very heroic gesture was to drink this poison. He chose to make the sacrifice of drinking the poison to save it damaging all life. And so he did. He drank this poison. And there are a couple of different versions of what happened after that. One version says that he's called the blue-throated one, Nilakanta, because he stopped the poison at his throat. It turned his throat blue, but it did not damage him further because he's such an adept yogi. And another version of the story says his cosmic spouse, Parvati, the female power, was standing beside him and said, "Dude, you're not swallowing that." And she put her hands around his throat and grasped it in such a way that the poison couldn't flow any further.
Wow.
And so whatever happened, the poison was stopped at Shiva's throat. And so the question to us, practically speaking, excuse me, it's winter. The question is, can we keep ourselves from swallowing the poison? So are we conscious of what poison is and what might be entering into our system, whether it's from speech, whether it's emotion, whether, who knows, events? Can we recognize the poison like Shiva did? And is there a way that we can stop it here before it enters our body and infuses our life and destroys things? He was an adept yogi, and of course he could do it. But if we know there's poison, we could also choose not to swallow it. So what do we do? And so that's a story that illustrates consciousness encountering shadow and negativity and dealing with it.
Wow. And so if we're chanting to Shiva and we're doing our japa mala, we might also be aware then of our thoughts, the poisons that are around us that we are trying to manage in our lives, and how can we use that to transform that really this consciousness is about awareness and transformation, and that with awareness we can see what's poison and what's not.
Exactly. And we can choose how we respond to it. And
Yes.
maybe with the support of the divine feminine power, we can also choose not to swallow that poison, because you can't really separate Shiva from Shakti, his power, his spouse. And so, I mean, it shows the power of consciousness in overcoming poisons, ignorance, death-oriented things. And it also shows the fearlessness that we invoke when we call to the energy of Shiva in ourselves and in the world, because you often see his hand up in this
Yes.
gesture,
Yes.
the Abhaya mudra. It means no fear. And despite the fact that he's so powerful, he's telling us, you know, I will grant you the boon of no fear. So he helps us be fearless in our lives. Maybe we have something to do and it's really kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
He can help us with that.
And then tell us a little bit about Ganesh and the remover of obstacles. There's several people that are also using the japa mantra, Om Gam Ganapataye. So, which is calling on Ganesh. And what's his avatar? What's he all about?
What's with that elephant-headed guy? Well, we all know Ganesh. I mean, even if we haven't studied Hindu mythology, his image with the elephant head and the chubby belly and the friendly face and the great big ears, he's so universally recognized, and he's greatly adored. And Ganesh is that power that moves obstacles out of our way, whether we think of that as a boon from the divine or whether it's us moving, using our, you know, awareness to get ourselves out of the way or whatever's in our way. And it doesn't always mean that you chant Om Ganganapataye Namaha and things go flying out of your way.
Yes.
But what it does mean is we're invoking that energy within ourselves to either recognize where we're in our own way, or to recognize or perhaps invoke solutions to the things that stand in our way, creative solutions.
Gotcha.
Sometimes very clever. He's a very clever guy.
Okay.
And he's the son of Shiva and Parvati. But Ganesh is interesting also because he was fully created by the feminine power. When his mother was lonely, she used her skin, the dirt of her skin and sandalwood paste, and she created a beautiful boy who was Ganesh. And so he's fully infused with the feminine power, Shakti. So he's kind of neat, even though he's nominally a male deity. And I'll tell a story about Ganesh, showing what a great problem solver he is.
Okay.
Yes. So one day, or after a period of time, the gods were debating who should be worshipped first among them, and everybody was fighting about who it should be. And so Shiva, consciousness, and Parvati, his mate, his cosmic spouse, power, they said, fine then, you shall have a race around the cosmos, a race around the universe, and whosoever should win that race, they will be the one who wins the honor of being worshipped first. And so everybody got ready for this race. They hardly slept the night before. They were planning and scheming, and they all got on their vehicles and they started racing first thing in the morning, except Ganesh. Ganesh had a chill night. He slept in. He was totally relaxed. He woke up in the morning. He stretched. He walked out to the garden, and there were mom and dad, Shiva and Parvati, sitting in the garden, having whatever beverage one would drink in ancient times in their beautiful garden on top of the mountain. And Ganesh just slowly and deliberately walked around their bench. He just took his time and he circumambulated their bench and finished his little circle. And then he bowed to them and said, I have won the race. I shall be worshipped first among all the gods. And they kind of looked at him and they said, well, how is this? You aren't even out racing with everyone else. And Ganesh said, well, you see, I've circumambulated all that is by circling my parents. Consciousness and the power that activates consciousness, they are the entire universe. They constitute everything. That is all that is. The male, the female, the Shiva, the Shakti. I've circled them. My race is complete. Therefore, I should receive the reward of being worshipped first.
I love it. And brilliant, you're saying.
Well, he's brilliant, and he is brilliant in that way, and he was absolutely right, and they couldn't say no. I mean, how could they say no to that?
Right.
And so not only does he have the power of all the study and the complexity, but he also has simple solutions and great wisdom. And so when we're invoking the power of Ganesh using our japa mala, this is the kind of power that we bring in, this fun, this play, this, and not only, he didn't say, I am the greatest. What he said is, my mother and my father, the male and the female together, or the consciousness and the Shakti, the power together, that is what constitutes all that is. And I have walked around it. And so he wasn't even saying, putting his ego in any, elevated position. He was saying, no, this is simply what it is. So he's very lovable.
Very lovable.
It is. And he's just he's a very innovative guy, like Dad. Shiva, Ganesh is a great ally to have when we're moving through difficult times, or even when we're having trouble getting out of our own way. He didn't stay up all night worrying and fretting. He chilled, he relaxed, he knew what he was going to do, and he did it. And so I don't know. That's a great story about Ganesh, just to show what wisdom in ourselves we're invoking when we say that mantra.
I love it. And it feels to me like it's accessible. Like what you're doing for me, K-Bhava, is you're taking this mythology and these avatars and this stuff that feels a little bit out there and making it accessible to me so that I can say, wow, in my everyday life, when I'm feeling stuck or I'm getting in the way of something, I can invoke this energy. I can invoke this mythology to support me as I move forward.
Totally. And that's why it's a living mythology and remains so after thousands and thousands of years, because it works. It's and there's this lovely, lovely sense and it coordinates with the shamanic practice, because in shamanism, the idea that the divine spark is in all things that exist, allows us to, we're never truly alone. We're part of something greater than ourselves. And even when we're in despair, if we can only remember, we have these wonderful mantra practices that help us remind ourselves of the support we always have available to us, and how approachable entities like Shiva or Ganesh truly are.
And so when you do your japa mala, like for me personally, this past 22 days that we've been practicing, it's incredibly grounding for me to the point where now I'm reaching for it. When I'm feeling ungrounded, I'm feeling like it's bringing the mantra in, and that way settles me.
I agree. I mean, I love it. I love whichever method one uses to do it. But I mean, I look forward to saying the mantra. I was actually, before we started and I knew we were doing this, I was kind of getting hungry to do a mantra, because I felt there were some things I was working through in my own life that I wanted to, and I knew which mantra I needed to use. And I thought, I'm really needing to do this. I'm hungry to do this right now because it will help me refocus. When I get the circular brain, people with active brains, and there's so much information coming in all the time, this time with your mantra can allow you to focus your intention and to reground with all the crazy that's going on. All the jazz hands crazy.
We're all feeling it, that's for sure. Okay,
It's true.
This has been so divine. I feel like I'm sitting on the ground right now, so I do feel like I'm looking up at K-Bhava, like, tell me some more stories. Like I am the child in kindergarten with her legs crossed on the floor, because it feels so, you are such a beautiful storyteller. And having you as one of our faculty in our advanced certification program is so delightful, because the students come out of your course, Whispered Wisdom, feeling enlightened, feeling like they have the tools they need, not only to understand some of this mythology, but also to learn how to journey and get some of the answers inside of themselves out for them to see.
Yeah, they can discuss. Thank you so kindly for the opportunity. And I have to say, I can't thank DevaTree enough, and you, Tamika and Carolyn, both of you, for allowing me to be the gatekeeper, because all I do is stand at the gate and open it, and the students run through. And so,
so if they want to come run through again, when are you back with us? In London, Ontario?
London, Ontario.
Yes.
So late late September, late October, and late November of 2019. Oh my gosh, already. Yeah.
So it's really cool because K-Bhava incorporates a lot of nature elements. And so you're able to be in that fall, winter season as you transition, as you are doing this work together. So we'd love to have you join us if that fits for you.
Come on along, run through the gate with me.
Such a beautiful way to say it. So thank you so much for adding to this conversation about mantra and about the Japa Mala challenge. And where we're going to join up again. Tamika and I will be back on December 21st for those of you that are still doing it. And if you're just starting, you can start at any time. And the hashtag is 40-day Japa if you are joining us for this. So good luck, everybody. And to you, K-Bhava, we say a huge thank you.
Oh, and it's returned.
Namaste.
Jai Japa.
Thank you for your storytelling. Thank you for your wisdom, and thank you for your heart.
Oh, thank you. You are so welcome.
Namaste. I'm going to figure out where I close this. There we go.